continuing with our theme of the mettabhavana, the meditation we're exploring at the moment. But I don't know if you remember, some of you might remember, we did this meditation last term in the autumn about letting go of control, or allowing things to be just as they are. So yeah, I mean, one of the ways that we find safety in life is, by controlling our environment. And of course, on one level, we need to control our environment. Yeah, and we need to get our needs met as human beings. Some of you might be familiar with the idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have to get our physiological needs met, our food and water and safety needs met, security and shelter, and we have to get our needs for human contact met, a sense of love and belonging. Maslow then talks about esteem needs, that we need to have these needs for self-esteem, to feel our utility as a human being, and the exploration of our potentiality. And the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is what he calls self-actualization. So this is us developing as individuals and becoming more and more our true selves. And we can't achieve, according to Maslow, we couldn't achieve a need on another level until we've satisfied the need on the level below that. So we can't start to think about self-actualization until the other needs are met, that we're safe and secure, etc. So within that hierarchy of needs, we are, as living organisms, as beings, we are trying to get all of our needs met, and trying to control the environment that we're within in order to get those needs met. We are we're trying to, well, in our case, we have to get work in order to get food, in order to get a safe place to live, in order to form relationships with other human beings, meaningful relationships, etc. But what often happens is that need to, well, I would say the need to control our environment then migrates into our attempts to self-actualize as well, into what we could call the spiritual life. And in that space, in some ways it goes beyond its remit. So we try to control our environment in a way too much. And one aspect of that controlling is that we try to control other people, or we try to get other people somehow to conform to, our version of reality, the version of reality that's going to make things, better for us, easier for us, more palatable for us, less painful for us, etc. And in that respect, we see other people not in terms of other independent human beings, but in terms of them being a part of our reality, and they're there to fulfill our needs. And maybe we're trying to engineer it in a way that we can do that, to have other people fulfill our needs in all sorts of ways. In through that hierarchy of needs, we might be getting other people to fulfill our sort of self-esteem needs by, I don't know what, getting them to say they love us and say how fantastic we are and all those sorts of things. And when those needs get frustrated, of course, we can get quite upset. And when people don't behave in the way that we want them to, we can get quite upset. And this happens, you know, on a personal level, but also kind of on a cultural level as well. Yeah, so, you know, in that sense, we're trying to control sort of culturally our culture, our identification with our particular culture. Cultures that don't conform to that, we don't understand, and we don't want necessarily to have anything to do with, or that culture tries to determine how this other culture, this other race should behave, etc. So it's on a micro level and a macro level as well. So, you know, in a way, it's a manifestation of our, you know, the Buddhism talks about the kleshas, these three fundamental poisons it starts with of greed, hatred, and ignorance. So the desire to make pleasurable experience our, you know, total experience, to reject unpleasant experience that we don't like, and to remain ignorant to that process, and to ignore anything that contradicts that that process within us. So the meditation I was going to do today is to address this within us, this desire that we feel that we need to have in order to control other people specifically, and to let go into an allowing of others to be what they are at any moment in time, because in a way people always are exactly what they are at any moment in time when we encounter them, and that's, you know, with all the good bits and all the bad bits, so-called, you know, in a way, just with all the conditioning that they have, just as we you know, present ourselves to other people, whether we realize it or not, with all the conditioning that we have. And so the allowing of that, you know, that conditioning to be there in any individual person and in its unique form is a part of, I think, what metta practice is about. The unconditional positive regard for other human beings, and the emphasis being on the unconditional and the allowing and the letting of other people to be who they are, and the acceptance of that. Okay, I think that's all I kind of had to say to kind of set us up. So any questions? Maybe if you could unmute people, Badra. Okay, the songbird has returned.
The blue tit and the blackbird.
How clever he is. That's
Yeah.
Any questions or thoughts around that?
Just it's quite relevant for me at the moment, I think. Just that was just a good thing to hear today. Just allowing my teenagers struggling a little bit, just allowing her to be like that in the moment. It's just that sounded like it's just what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Good. Oh, good. Oh, yeah. Of course, I've been saying this doesn't mean, you know, it doesn't, because sometimes if we say, well, let everything be as it is, we somehow think that we're going to have to sort of roll over for every situation, but it's not to do with that. I think it's about freeing us from whatever is trying to cling to a situation into an open space where we are open and creative. And then if something needs to be negotiated, as it constantly does through life with other people, we're in a free space to negotiate from that, without that sense of clinging on to particular outcomes, which are, you know, which are there conditioning our approach to people, and that we can be in a free, creative space to sort of negotiate our lives with other people.
I guess it seems quite, for me, I think what I observe is that people getting anxious about other people breaking the rules, that turns into some sort of need to control, or, you know, and that creates the anxiety, I think. Yeah. Whereas, you know, this sort of situation, there are always going to be people doing that, breaking the rules and not doing what you think that they should be doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it just causes a lot of suffering, because you know, because people go into sort of wanting to control as a means to you know, reduce their own anxiety, but it can create more, I guess. So I guess that's sort of my experience of what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yes. So it's interesting to notice in those situations what's going on, you know, on an emotional level, you know, what it is that we're expecting from situations that where we do start to get, you know, anxious. I don't know, walking around the supermarket and people not keeping the social distance is one that I've been noticing. And then sort of, you know, having a kind of view about it. Oh, they should be doing this, etc. But of course, that view doesn't change anything, you know, doesn't add anything to the situation. It just adds anxiety into my own experience. I mean, I could get down and try and negotiate with each of those individuals about, you know, their views about what might be social distancing and whether, you know, but where do you start? So it's not holding back on that, being potentially creative with you know, the need for things to happen, of course.
I think a lot of the anxiety also gets triggered. There's always a temptation in these times to hang on to the newspapers, the news, you know, the news and BBC and whatever.
Yeah.
And then you can easily end up getting, oh, they shouldn't have done that, they should have done this, whatever. And to become too involved in that. You know, of course you're concerned, it's right, but you can't allow yourself to disappear into that. When you get anxious. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And the world is full of that. I think that in particular at the moment, that kind of anxiety, that it's very difficult when new situations that we're having to adjust to are arising. And this happens, you know, like it's happening collectively with the pandemic, but also in, you know, personal relationships. It can happen. Somebody changes in some way. We find ourselves in a new situation and anxiety steps into that gap, and we contract around the newness of that situation. And so hopefully this meditation, you know, will work towards creating a bit of space, and it's something that we can include into metta practice, this allowing of people to be as they are in this current moment. Okay, so if there's no more thoughts, and we'll be able to have a chance to, after meditation, to discuss and share our experience of what the meditation has been after we've finished meditating in our usual way. Okay, so if you'd like to set up for meditation, and So we're going to do mettabhavana meditation, but we'll do it, and we'll do it with the 5 stages. And I'll just give some prompts in the stages to help us get into this particular way of looking at metta in the letting go of control sense we've been talking about. So we can start, as we always start with meditation, with our posture. And we feel we've established a good posture that's both grounded and at the same time upright and alert. Just noticing where the attention is in our experience. Usually our attention is located somewhere around the head, and a lot of the time attention is fixed onto the thinking process. Just making a conscious decision to unhook from the thinking mind and come into the sensate body. So that's the attention is already usually up with the head. Sometimes easiest just to go to start with to the sensations in the head. So we're looking for the actual bodily sensations, with the attention to go into bodily sensations. Sensations in the jaw and face. So we'll come down through the body, down to the lower abdomen, and then below that to the pelvic floor. So following the sensations down through the body, going from the sensations in the head and face to those in the throat and neck, not worrying too much. If we can't find particular distinct sensations, just be with whatever sense we do have in the throat and the neck. And down to the upper chest. Obviously noticing sensations to do with the breathing in the upper chest. And down to the diaphragm, bottom of the rib cage. Looking for the sensations there. down into the lower abdomen. So this is the area between the top of the pubic bone and the navel. Really allowing the awareness, the attention to soak into that area of the body. And below, on the lower abdomen, we can go down further to the pelvic floor, the perineum. It's an area of skin between the buttocks, usually in contact, part of the body that's in contact with the cushions, the chair. Also feel like a very open area of the body. So if we're in touch with the pelvic floor, the perineum, the sensations there, imagine ourselves breathing up through that area, as if we're breathing through the pelvic floor, drawing energy up from the earth, much as we were doing on the rains retreat last week, those of us who were on it. Breathing up and energizing, coming in through the pelvic floor, traveling up the spine and out the top of the head. And coming back to the area around the heart. So the center of the chest. And picking up on whatever sensations are there. Does it feel tight, relaxed, hard, soft? Open or contracted? Just allowing whatever is there in the area of the heart just to be there. And again, as we were doing with the pelvic floor, breathing in, as it were, directly through the heart, or the area of the heart. That in itself might lead to an energizing and a softening around the heart. Just allowing the heart to soften. Just by being with the heart and awareness, it's maybe enough for it to start to soften and open. Breathing into it, as it were, directly into the heart, as if our breathing was taking place not through the lungs but through the heart itself. If there's any resistance around the area of the heart, not trying to make it go away, just being with it. Any sense of tightness, any sense of contraction, or closed offness, just allowing that to be. Just holding the heart in awareness. You can allow that awareness in the heart center to spread out to the whole experience of the sensate body. So wherever there are areas of contraction, of holding on in the body, of aches and pains, just holding them in the same way we've been holding the heart in awareness. Just allowing those aches and pains to be held, not fighting them, allowing awareness to relax into those contracted areas of the body. A deep sense of it being okay. Those parts of the body are seen and held. And same with any emotional states that might be arising. Just allowing them to be what they are, to be held in awareness. We're going to call to mind a good friend. Using our imagination or our sense of that person, bringing them to mind. And as we bring them to mind, including them into that heart awareness, it's simple allowing of their being as it is. No ideas or need for them to be other than what they are. We can be rejoicing in the acceptance of them as they are, all their foibles, all their qualities, all their uniqueness, all their particular way of being. May they be allowed to be just as they are. May I accept them just as they are. May they be seen just as they are. You also may notice with that good friend what we don't want to allow to be there. If we do notice that, just greeting it, letting it in. Aspects of the good friend that we find more difficult. This is just how things are with them, or just how things are with them at the moment. Simply allowing not judging that, just letting it be there, just letting it be held in the heart's awareness. Moving into the third stage, calling to mind a neutral person. Using our imagination to conjure them to mind. Situations in which we encounter them. Giving some sense of the neutral person. So allowing the unknownness of that person to be there. They're essentially somebody unknown to us, like an undiscovered landscape. Like a new territory to us. Hills, woods, beautiful vistas, maybe difficult pathways and dark hollows. Allowing all the unknownness of that person to be there. Just allowing the heart's awareness to hold that unknown being. So the heart's awareness, metta, has this intrinsic confidence to be able to meet the unknown in other people. To meet the unknown in this particular person. Be open to the potentiality of that unknown person, to relationship with them, based on a mutual allowing of each other to be as we are. No need for control. allowing that person to come through as they are. The need to control others leads to a tightening and a contraction, and then an inability to be able to respond. If we feel ourselves tightening against the neutral person, breathing into that tightness, holding the tightness in the heart space. Allowing the heart space to envelop it. So moving into the fourth stage, bring to mind a difficult person. Call them to mind, imagination. We can see ourselves holding that person within the heart space. The center of the chest. Breathing through that part of the body. Great allowing that the heart space has within it. For everything just to be as it is. Just allowing the difficulty we have with the difficult person, allowing the difficulty to be there, just held in the heart space. You don't have to do anything about the difficulty. You don't have to control it. You can't control it anyway. It's the attempt to control it that's causing us to contract. allowing it to be there in the heart space, breathing through it, letting everything be just as it is, including the difficulty. Deep acceptance. Acceptance of not being able to control life, not being able to control other people. Letting go into things being as they are. Simply holding experience and awareness in the aware heart space, holding everything there. Awareness has the capacity to meet every experience. Breathing into the heart space, relaxing into allowing it to melt. Allowing the heart space to open up. With that sense of being able to be with whatever arises. What would it be like to be completely out without the need to control? Allowing, as it were, that open heart space to expand outwards, beyond the boundaries of the body, beyond the boundaries of the thinking mind. An open, loving awareness. Totally allowing, unconditional. Taking in more and more of the world. Taking in more and more living beings. And then when we feel ready, let go of the effort we'll be making in the meditation. Just allowing ourselves to freewheel. A little bit of time to absorb the effects of the practice. If you're ready, coming out of the meditation and opening our eyes.